Welcome to Jewel and the Crown for another week, Brisbane football's top-rating women's podcast. I'm Peter Hodgkin. I'm here with Dr. G. How are you, Greg?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm recovering.
Yes, you should be. Yeah, big result against
good
Mitchie.
session last night, so we're okay. Hey, before we get into the SEQ WPL, God, that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
There is a World Cup going on at the moment, FIFA's Under-17 Girls World Cup held in Costa Rica.
Okay.
And they're in the middle of the group stages, and I can tell you that at the moment, both Italy and Venezuela from Group A have qualified for the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, Costa Rica, who are hosting, are gone now because they're in that group as well. And I think Ghana have qualified from Group B.
Right.
And our friends across the ditch in New Zealand had a draw with Paraguay in their first game.
Mm-hmm.
Unlucky not to win that.
Right.
Good side, there's Kiwis.
Okay.
But yeah, so look, if you want to catch up with what's happening, go to the FIFA website and you will see some video highlights and all the scores.
Cool. And
some really talented players.
Okay.
So we
maybe we'll get some of those New Zealand players coming to play in the SEQ WPL.
Well, we do, because Emma Taylor, the keeper for Mitchie, played in the previous Under-17 World Cup for New Zealand.
There you go. So,
yeah,
it's quite possible.
It is possible. Anything's possible.
Not at Mitchie.
Well, not beating Redlands, but
no.
We won't talk about that.
Games last week. First game was on Friday night. It was East taking on Sunny Coast. You can see some highlights on the washing line.
I did. I have a look.
Yeah, it was good to see. It's always good to. It's a nice view from up there. That
nice little header by the Donsky girl.
Yeah, Courtney Donsky, big header, opened the scoring for East in the first half.
1-0 at half time.
1-0, but if you look at the highlights, there was two good chances for Sunny Coast. One, sort of the keeper scramble and the Sunny Coast players on the ground has played it. It's trickled, the keeper's got back and dragged it back. Great save.
And I think they hit the crossbar too,
yeah,
didn't they?
two in a row. Hit the crossbar, came back down and hit it again. So if those had gone in, well, changed the game. But in the end, 3-0, bit of a comfortable looking win to East.
2-0, and the Karen Ogbottom got that third one late.
Yeah. Nice goal, was it Nicole Quinn, the second goal? That was a good goal, well taken.
So 3 points to East, they'll be happy with that after their first round loss.
Mm-hmm.
So points on the board.
Don't know anything about Sunny Coast, they haven't put in their team sheet.
No, pretty ordinary.
Very. The next game was Southwest Queensland Thunder taking on Palm Beach up at Toowoomba. Nell E. Robinson, I'm not sure. Yeah. Never been there.
7-0 seems like a big result. Now, I did have a chat to Gary.
Certainly wasn't the biggest this week, though, was it?
No,
Peter?
it wasn't. But I did have a chat to Gary French from Palm Beach, and he said that wasn't probably indicative of the game. 2-0 at half-time. He said they were fairly tough to get over. The third goal was what did it. He said that the young players for Thunder dropped their heads after the third, and then they just rolled in a few more goals. So, 4 more, to make it a comfortable win. But he was impressed with the Thunder kids, so they'll do all right.
Okay.
So
the interesting thing for Palm Beach there is 2 goals to Ellie Papalexiou. I hope I've said that right, Ellie. If we haven't, please write in. Deanna Thompson got 2, but then Lauren Brown, Lara Seville and Harriet Withers. So lots of different goal scorers. So it's not one player doing the damage for Palm Beach. They can all find the net.
Yeah, and Gary said they do have a bit of a transition in their side this year, so some players have dropped out and some under-17s have come through.
I did check the stats. So, for example, Deanna Thompson, she played 19 games in the Diamond League last year, and Harriet Withers played 18. Lauren Brown and Laura Seville played about 8 each, and Ellie had played only 3. So, a bit of older than you, as you say, but they've all of those goal scorers have had experience.
Well, Deanna Thompson, I think, might have been their top scorer last year. She's a really quality striker.
But, yeah, good result for Palm Beach. Probably on top of the table. I haven't looked at the table yet.
No, they're second.
Okay, it's a goal
they'll
difference,
be happy because they'll be in front of the gap.
Yes.
East, and everyone loves to be in front of East.
The next game, Peninsula Power took on the Gap at Peninsula Power. 3-0 at half-time to the Gap, but the end score was 6-2 to the Gap.
An interesting game. Gap had scored within 90 seconds.
All right. Wow.
And then a few minutes later, number 2.
Bang.
And the third just before half-time. Done and dusted. And you think, well, you get them in the shed, you get a chance to come back out in the second half, maybe claw your way back into the game. 5 minutes in the second half, it's 4-0.
Yeah.
and the game's over.
I figured that because a couple of substitutions from the gap in the 52nd minute, so I assumed they got that fourth goal pretty quick. But, you can't
really tell if it's an injury or...
You
whatever.
Can't, which is a shame. But or when the goals were scored, it was just a guess that they made 2 subs at 52, probably because they were up.
But Scotsman Dave said that the gap were just relentless. He said they were doing the same thing that they did last year. You know what they're going to do, but they just keep doing it.
Can't stop them.
And so they're in good touch already.
And 2 red cards in this game, 1 for each side. Separate incidents, though. It wasn't.
Well, I understand that, and that's my understanding of it. Now, the referee's always right.
Yes.
Except when they send players off.
Yes.
Although, my understanding was that Victoria Stevenson was probably a bit unlucky to get sent off.
From the
perhaps.
gap, yeah.
And even the power people that I spoke to said, well, that's a bit tough for her.
Yeah.
But that's the way it goes, I guess, sometimes.
It is.
So she'll miss next week.
A couple of return players to Peninsula Power. Now, I talked about last week how they'd had lots of players. Chelsea Martin is back at Power.
Yes.
She might have just missed last week. And Monique Nelson, who was in goals for them at least in 2012, is back. So,
well, they needed a keeper, and that was something that Dave was worried about.
Well, Monique's
so he might have been on the
keeper.
phone.
She's a quality keeper. With the experience, I think she was probably there when they won it in 2011. So, yeah, that's a good pickup, a handy pickup for Peninsula Power.
And Britt Whitfield's got on the board again in this one.
Yep.
So scoring against the gap's good in itself.
Yeah, well, they got 2.
Yep.
And Brescianini.
Yep.
Good, the
close.
other one. I think so. Sorry about that. For the gap, Marley Forbes got 2. Ruth Blackburn with 2. Victoria Stevenson also got 1. Fatima Flores and Ashley Bucknell all scored.
So they're off and running.
Yeah, is that right? That can't be
No.
right. No,
Ruth
Ash Bucknell
got
just
2.
got the yellow card. Sorry. So there was 2 red cards
and 2 yellow cards.
2 yellow cards.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So interesting game.
Interesting game.
But I do have one. Just talking to Dave, he's got a pretty tough run for the first few weeks. He's got East coming up.
Yep.
So he did say that he might be in line for an OBE out before Easter.
He could be. Tough side Power. It could, but we haven't seen any. I mean, I think the first coach on the block would surely be yourself.
I've got points on the board. See, that's the difference.
The next game, Annerley 2 defeated Western Pride 0 at Elder Oval. A bit of a slower game, but both sort of equally matched sides. But I think they'll be
game. I watched the second half.
Struggling. I watched the first half. So
and we compared notes.
And so 2 goals to Annerley in the second half, 1 for Rebecca Sweeney and 1 for Mel Perlo. And did you see those goals?
The first one was a long shot.
Mm-hmm.
I can't quite remember the second goal. It was right down the other end.
Yep.
But very even game. Pride had their opportunities as well.
Yep.
But like you say, because it was a double header down at Annerley, and Olympic and UQ played after that, there was a noticeable difference in the pace of
it was good to be able to
compare
compare those games so readily, instead of having a week break and then you see another team or, a couple of hours.
So it's hard to tell whether Pride had slowed down to Annerley's pace or Annerley had slowed down to Pride's pace, or they were both at that pace anyway.
I think
often
it's
if you've
probably
got
a bit of that.
Yeah. So be interesting to see how they go next week, both those sides. So.
Yeah. Well, good point. Annerley gets points on the board and, a turnaround from their 5-0 loss against Palm Beach.
But Pride have a couple of wingers that showed some promise.
They picked up a few from Ipswich Knights as well. Melissa von Bischofhausen was playing at Ipswich Knights.
You just wanted to say that.
That's a name I can actually say. So we'll get the next game right after that. It's actually quite enjoyable to watch 2 women's football games back to back. Or, you came in for the second half and then the first half. I watched the first half of one and
then went home, had some dinner.
Yeah, came back and watched the second half of the other sort of thing. So that was quite fun. Olympic 3-0 winners over UQ. Good old Phil Canham from Olympic, not Annerley anymore, has not put on his team sheet yet again.
So we have no idea.
No, no idea. And UQ didn't have much detail. But their goalkeeper, she marshals that team. Annerley Eldorado was a big field.
At one point, I think she was only about 20 metres inside her own half.
Oh, yeah,
and playing as a sweeper.
Yeah, very, very confident. The goals I did see, though, were all sort of long-range shots. The first one, the keepers made a clearance, and I think the pressure was on the defender, and it went straight back over her head sort of thing. So I think maybe she was caught out, maybe not, but the way she marshals the team, she's not just standing there as a sweeper, she's telling where people can go with the ball and all those sort of things. So she's a good-looking keeper. She's,
the half that I watched, UQ had the better of the first half of that game.
Mm-hmm.
And probably should have been one up. The strikers missed an absolute sitter from inside the 6-yard box.
Right.
Neat little cross in from the right, past the keeper and got it stuck between the knees.
That happens.
So it really should have probably been 1-0 to UQ, but it wasn't to be. And whatever Phil's done at half time's worked, and they've come out and got the points.
I think he threatened to put their team sheet up if they didn't win, to name and shame the team.
Maybe he said they had to play in red and white next week instead of blue and white.
That's the other thing, yeah.
I was a little bit confused when they came out and they're wearing blue and white stripes. And I'm obviously used to seeing Olympic in red and white stripes. And I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. It's an Olympic home game.
Yep.
Is this their home strip or their away strip?
As far as
I know, it could be a little bit confusing for teams coming in.
Yeah, as far as I know, that is their home strip. Their NPL girls also wear that strip. And maybe it might just be for the women in the club. Not sure.
There's not really anything on the Football Brisbane websites or whatever.
No.
When you look at the club strips, it's got the club colours, but there's variations
what
between
colour
them.
of Thunder wear? Just out of interest.
They were very similar to Anley strip.
Yeah,
So
so
that
same
blue.
as the Raiders sort of strippers last year.
So, the Thunder turn up in their blue expecting to play red and white. They mightn't have an away kit. So, something to be mindful of if you're out there listening, coaches.
Yes, it is. Then Taringa took on Souths United. Taringa lost 4-0. Souths haven't put up their team sheet, but they are 1-0 up in front at half-time.
First goal came about 40 minutes in, so fairly even on the scoreboard in the first half. But Souths probably just ran over the top of Taringa a little bit. Second goal was from a free kick.
Mm-hmm.
Girl knocked it in from the far post.
Nice.
So I spoke to Kelvin. He said it wasn't a brilliant goal, but he said you got to give the credit to the girl. She was there where she needed to be and unmarked.
Yeah.
So, and then 2 more defensive errors, but that's the way it goes. If you punish people's mistakes, you win games.
That's it. It certainly is.
So, South's team sheet weren't in. So I don't know what happened there. Taringa's was in, but we have no idea if they made any subs.
No.
So, it's a bit...
Yes.
slack,
Last
guys.
game on the weekend. Oh, this is exciting. Redlands took on Mitchelton at Cleveland Showgrounds.
Now, before we talk about that, we have a new segment for Jewel in the Crown.
Yeah, okay, go on.
We have a new segment, thanks to Tegan, who's now going to send us every week the writing report. Well, I wanted to call it the writing report, but you're going to call it something else.
I'm going to call it the Red Riding Report.
Why are you going to call it the Red Riding
Tegan
Report?
plays from Redlands, and she played for the Lady Reds at Adelaide.
So it's now the Red Riding Report, Tegan.
Yep.
And so every week, Tegan's going to send us a report and we can just read out what she says about the game.
You're just trying to get out of what you say about the game.
Well, it's good that Tegan's going to report
here's what
on this game.
Tegan reports. Now, just in case you didn't know the score, it was 10-0 to Redlands. Redlands dominated play from the outset and maintained possession for the majority of the game with great ball control. The first goal by Redlands came in early with the score reaching 5-0 in favour of Redlands at half-time. Goals for Redlands, we've got 2 from Joanne Burgess. Michaela Hatzaridos got 1, Stephanie Latham, Sachi Tatsuoka got 1, and Tegan Rodding banged in 5. She must have been on fire.
She was playing very, very well.
Score could have been much different if not for the great goalkeeping by Mitchie, who unfortunately got an injury in the closing minutes. How is she?
Yeah, she's going to be okay.
Okay. And hot conditions, so both teams put up a great display of football under the circumstances. Mitchelton created some opportunities and to their credit never stopped trying right to the final whistle and are sure to improve as the season progresses. Look, Pete, I want to know, 10-0 drubbing, can you justify your position in this league?
Yes, we can.
How?
Well, we won last week.
Okay, yeah.
So,
True.
and if we win this week, there's going to be a lot of teams struggle against Redlands, to be honest.
Is it just on the day, or is it...
They were... I think the best way to describe Redlands' performance on the weekend is they were fresh. And the Redlands pitch is just magic to play on. If you haven't been there, it's worthwhile just going to have a look. It's like a carpet. It's a brilliant pitch and it suits their football. So they were able to stroke that ball around with ease. They were just really, really good.
Okay.
The first goal was actually a free kick from about 22 metres and scored by Steph Latham. And it was just a cracker of a free kick, straight over the wall into the top of the net. And I think it was still going up when it hit the net.
Right.
It was an amazing free kick, really. And that just set the tone. It was like, oh, my God, we've defended and this happens.
Yeah.
But the game went from end to end. And while Tegan says, our keeper Emma pulled off some great saves, which she did, the save of the match belonged to Joe Buckley.
Yeah. From
Georgia Bridges. Broke away and she's hit this with some venom. And I do not know how Joe Buckley saved this.
She's pulled off a couple of great saves.
So that's how good a quality keeper she is. I mean, she was standing around watching,
For most of the
spectating
game.
for a lot of the game, and when she needed to save, she did.
Yeah.
And she actually saved a one-on-one against Emma Pittman as well. So there's some quality all over Redlands.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of teams are going to struggle
Fair
against
enough.
them. So they were really well done.
Okay.
Quickly, the ladder.
Okay, might as well.
Redlands on 6 points, Palm Beach on 6, the Gap on 6, Old Heap of us on 3, and Pride, Peninsula Rovers and Thunder, no points yet.
Okay, well,
So,
round 2.
yeah, it is round 2. Tegan Riding, top of the goal scoring chart with 5, thanks to us.
Didn't she score last week, isn't it?
6, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
6, yes. So she's got 6, and then Ellie Papalexio from Palm Beach on 3, Ruth Blackburn from the Gap on 3, and Sachi Tatsuoka from Redlands also on 3.
Okay, games coming up this weekend. Friday, 8:30. There's only one place that plays Friday games, and that's at Heath Park. East take on Power. Big game.
It is a big game. I think East will get over Power this week.
I'm interested that some of those players, so might be some of those other players that I listed last week from Power who weren't playing. Maybe they'll be starting to come back. I'm not sure.
It's hard to say. And
maybe they're a
Dave's
bit
keeping
injured.
that a little bit close to his
Yeah,
chest,
well.
and Jeff's a little bit the same at the moment. They're trying to just get through the first few weeks.
They're
The
both
pressure's on Power, though. No points yet. Tough games to start with. Well, they're probably disappointed they lost to UQ in the first round. Might have been points they expected to get. So the pressure's really on Power this week. If they lose this game,
okay.
they're 9 points behind, possibly third or fourth.
Yeah.
So
I'm tipping East at home on a Friday. I think the crowd is big there and usually gets them over the line. Didn't see any teams over the Roller Door Cafe, but with those short highlights, maybe on the extended package, someone got it up. First game on Saturday, 3 p.m. at Malawa Sporting Complex. Palm Beach take on Redlands. This is a big one.
maybe not as big as we think. I think talking to Gary French that Palm Beach Redlands are probably a little bit too early in the season for them. They may not be quite ready to handle Redlands yet. So I think Redlands will probably go over them by a few goals.
Fair enough. Well, you want them to justify your position in the league. So Souths take on Sunny Coast at 3:15 at Wakeley Park. I'm tipping Redlands if you didn't guess. Actually, no. No, I want to tip Palm Beach.
You want
Yeah.
You want to tip Palm Beach?
Yeah, I'm tipping Palm Beach. Souths take on Sunny Coast on Saturday at 3:15.
This will be an interesting game. This will be a real test of where South and Sunny Coast are. Both have played Taringa. South's got up by 4, Sunny Coast 2-1. So it'll be a real test to see where they sit compared to each other.
Okay.
I think it's a draw.
I'm tipping Souths at home. I reckon maybe Sunny Coast don't travel very well. Let's put it out there now.
Well, you can put it out there.
I'm putting it out there. Sunny Coast, good at home.
I can't split them at the moment.
3:15 Gap. The Gap take on Olympic. Now, I did mention, and the cameras will be out at the Gap on Olympic at 3:15 at Walton Bridge Reserve. So get out there. If you can get your team logo painted onto the field. No, don't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Somewhere.
You could try.
That'll be great. The Gap take on Olympic. Now, I said I'd get the stats for you. Now, the Gap have been unbeaten in 45 Football Brisbane League finals and cup games.
45.
45.
That's the streak.
That's the streak. Now, they've had 3 draws in that period. So they lost in round 2 of 2012 against Sunny Coast, and they have been undefeated since then. So they went through the rest of 2012 they won every game. Then last year they drew 3 games, twice against Redlands, once against Danley, which cost them the premiership.
They did.
But in both of those years they played Redlands 4 times and ended up beating them in the finals and the cup final. In the 2012 they beat them.
So they don't play Redlands for a few weeks yet.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game.
So the Gap take on Olympic, which is essentially Annerley from last year. So a bit of a rematch. I'm sure Rob's trying to get it back.
Yeah, you try to talk it up as a rematch, but it's Olympic FC, It's not Annerley.
They do have the Annerley logo on their shirt as well.
They're wearing blue.
They are wearing blue.
I think Gap too strong, too good.
I'm tipping a draw.
You just want it to be a draw. I'm tipping the Gap by about 3 or 4.
Okay. At 5 p.m, Briggs Road Sporting something. I didn't get the end of that. Western Pride take on South West Queensland Thunder.
Thunder for me.
Thunder for you.
The kids to bounce back.
Okay. I'll go with Thunder. I think Western Pride will have to still adjust to the game. I think if they'd played the game in the first round, they'd be better prepared for last week, but they didn't. So anyway, on Sunday, Mitchie, I don't know what you can call them, but anyway, the team that
the
probably
Mustangs, you call them the Mitchie Mustangs. Greg.
take on
Do you want me to spell it for
Taringa.
you?
Now I'm tipping Taringa in this game.
Yeah, just being smarty pants now.
It is a big game for Mitchie to bounce back, but also Taringa surely would be thinking, well, if they got done by 10, they mustn't be feeling the best. So let's,
See, your microphone keeps falling down because even your microphone doesn't believe you. Oh, I'm going for Mitchie.
Okay, I think Mitchie too. And the final game on Sunday at UQ taking on Annerley. I think UQ will be too good for Annerley here. The question is for Annerley is if the longer they can keep teams at bay, I think they might be able to snatch it. So,
but
UQ look
based
sharp.
on UQ's performance last week in the first half, if they play like that, I think Annerley are in a lot of trouble early. And if Chapman gets on the ball, I don't think she got on the ball enough in the first half last week, and I'm sure that their coach will address that. And then they can get her on the ball in that spot behind the striker. She's going to cause Annerley a lot of problems.
Okay. So those are all your Q League games for the week?
Q League.
Oh, SEQ, WPL. Anyway, let's get out, watch some football, get out to the Gap.
And before we go, we have a special guest on next week.
Yes, who's our special guest?
Mike Cornby, the CEO of Football Brisbane, is going to come on and tell us all about what Football Brisbane's doing with women's football, what's happening, Champion of Champions, SEQ, WPL, how that got formed. So
that'll be good.
So we'll be able to spill the beans, tell us the truth, get grilled by us.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that bit, Mike. That'll be good. He's offered to come on and have a chat.
That'll be good.
Let us know what's been happening.
Excellent. So get out there, watch some football.
And if you get a chance, I was going to say, if you get a chance, look up the highlights for the Under-17 World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Some great little players in there. And thanks for listening.
Thanks very much. Enjoy your weekend.